Hello again, welcome to another video. This time it's about the dangers of addiction and whether to re-addict yourself to something. Now that sounds like a very strange thing to say, but I've recently had an experience which I wanted to share, thought was quite interesting. It's well known in Alcoholics Anonymous that one drink causes the need for another drink and another drink and another drink. So in AA they have a maxim which is one drink, one drunk, because one drink always leads to another one and another one. And there's also another saying in Alcoholics Anonymous which is one is too many and 1,000's never enough. So it's the one drink that leads to so many more, and the same it is with every addiction, every addictive substance. And for a lot of people who have addiction problems, they find it impossible to control that. Of course there are some people who can have one drink. In my lifetime I've probably known, as a counsellor and obviously as a person, I've known thousands of people, and I've only known about 4 people who can actually have one drink and then walk away from it. Most people have an addictive propensity, a proclivity towards addiction, and when they've had one they want another one. It takes a very strong person to be able to have one chocolate out of the box, or to be able to have one cigarette, because what you've done is you've awakened the receptors that like that. So with chocolate it's about sugar and the insulin and glucose, glycogen response, and with nicotine it's the nicotine receptors in the brain. And all these addictive things stimulate the action of dopamine and basically feel-good chemicals. So even with non-substance addictions such as gambling, still would stimulate the dopamine response and you feel good after doing it. So that's why addictions are so addictive. They feel good and they make neural pathways in the brain which cause repetitive and habitual behaviour. That's true for addictive substances, alcohol, cocaine, any types of drugs, crystal meth, heroin, smack, crack, weed, blow, whiz, bang, whatever it is. And the same with non-addictive substances as well, because it's all about feel-good chemicals and it's all about changing your mood for the time being. Anyone who knows me well will know that I haven't drank alcohol for 12 and a half years, and I'm very proud about that, because although I wouldn't have described myself as an alcoholic, I certainly had, let's say, issues around alcohol, and so I gave that up eventually in 2005, and it was extremely difficult to do. And I'm glad to be out of that prison of alcohol. Now the reason I'm mentioning that in today's video is that I recently watched an online presentation about healthy eating and veganism and things like that, and one of the presenters was saying that his wife and himself often have what he called a healthy bar of dark chocolate at night time, and because the chocolate is known to be good for the heart, but it's got to be dark chocolate and it's got to be healthy and it's got to be really dark and healthy. So it's got to be like 85% cacao, which is obviously high concentration. So around the time I gave up alcohol. I also gave up chocolate because what happened is it's very common for alcoholics or people with addiction problems to swap one addiction for another. So unless they're getting rid of everything completely like they would in an addiction centre such as Promise in Kent, which is a great addiction place where they make you give up everything. But unless you're getting rid of everything and you want to look at your inner soul, then you would usually replace one addiction with another. So what happens is people give up alcohol and they start eating sweets or chocolate because of the sugar. Alcohol is a high carbohydrate food, if you like, and because of that we get really hooked on high sugar things. So when it's very common for smokers to start eating sweets, and unless they are able to abide with the inner cravings, which is the subject of another video that I've made about smoking if you want to look at that, unless they're able to abide the inner cravings, then they think, and they suddenly say things like, well, I got my appetite back when I stopped smoking, I could taste food better, and then they put on 5 stone. And then they realise that they've become a fatty, and so they want to lose the weight, and so they start smoking again because they think, well, it helps me to control my weight. Nothing to do with that. What it is, it's to do with the fact that they're unable to tolerate withdrawal symptoms. So, going back to the point of this video, I gave up alcohol 12.5 years ago, and at that time I started eating chocolate, and I thought, oh, this is nice, and it's obviously less harmful than alcohol. Ethyl alcohol is poisonous and it rots your liver, causes fatty liver and causes cirrhosis. So obviously there's nothing in favour of drinking alcohol at all. I don't care what the health brigade say or the so-called nutritionists. There's nothing in favour of drinking alcohol, just as there's nothing in favour of smoking cigarettes. So I gave it up. It took me a long time to do it. Brilliant. Gave it up. Very happy. Started eating chocolate. So suddenly I'm eating a Kit Kat and an Aero and a Bounty and a Milky Way and a Snickers bar and whatever I could get my hands on. And I realised it had got out of control when on one of my birthdays I was staying in a hotel, and I said to my wife at the time, I said, have we got any chocolate for tonight in the room? Which is crazy. I mean, who would plan to have chocolate in a hotel room? I mean, it's crazy. And I know there's like chocoholic brigade and these chocolate fans who go out of their way to glorify chocolate when really all they're doing is glorifying type 2 diabetes. But anyway, so I was planning chocolate and I thought, wow, I realised then that I swapped one addiction for another. So then what I did, I had to give up chocolate as well. So I'd already given up alcohol, and 6 months later I had to give up chocolate as well because I'd realised I'd replaced one addiction with another, which is obviously not what I wanted to do. So I gave up chocolate. It's quite successful actually, and it wasn't as difficult to give up as alcohol or smoking was, which is on another video still. So I gave up the chocolate and gave up the chocolate 12 years ago. So fast forward to 2017. So I watched this vegan presentation video that I mentioned earlier, and it's all very nice, and he says, my wife and I, we like a dark chocolate. So I thought, oh, this is good, and it's good for the heart. I thought, well, that's good, you know, because I'm getting on a bit now, you know, I'm 22, and I thought, well, this is really good. I'm gonna have a dark chocolate and enjoy a dark, high cacao, 85% chocolate. So I asked my wife to get some of this chocolate because she does all the shopping. I don't get involved with things like that. And so we got this dark chocolate, this 85% chocolate, and obviously it doesn't even taste like chocolate because chocolate as we know it is like Cadbury's chocolate, is full of sugar and fat. In fact, it was nearly declassified as chocolate because the cocoa content was so little at one point, or cacao content was so small that they nearly recalled Cadbury's chocolate Vegelate because of the low content. But that's another story. So anyway, we've got this high concentrate, super duper dark chocolate, and it was as black as this coat, or even as black as this shirt, and there it is. So I took a little bit of this chocolate, which was like those, you know, and didn't taste like chocolate. It doesn't taste like the chocolate we all know and love, like Aero or Dairy Milk. It wasn't like that. It was like really dark, but it was worth eating and tolerable, quite nice. And I thought, well, I'm doing my heart good. These American vegan doctors say that it's good for the heart, and I mean, they're probably sponsored by Green and Blacks or something, a subsidiary of Cadbury, but still, I thought, oh, this is quite nice. And then obviously you can't get that chocolate all the time. This was like 3 months ago. So then I'm out one day and I thought, I just fancy a bit of dark chocolate. So I thought, Bourneville, that's dark, and Cadbury's Bourneville. So I got a bar of Bourneville, and I thought, well, that's dark, but it's nothing like 85% dark. It's just really sugar and darker than normal. So that's quite nice because it's really sugar. It's almost like a bar of sugar. And so nibbling the Bourneville, which then has led me back to Kit Kat and Aero and, you know, all the rest of the crap. So this is a lesson, and it's a lesson to me, but it can be a lesson to other people. That's why I'm sharing this video. I'm not doing it just to talk to myself. And the lesson is this. In AA, they say 1 drink, 1 drunk. Everybody knows that. If you have 1 drink of alcohol and you're an alcoholic, you're going to have 2, 3, 4, 5 and ruin your life. You're going to lose the 3 L's, license, livelihood and love life. And it's the same with any addictive substance. And of course, chocolate and sugar are addictive. So I unwittingly and foolishly re-addicted myself to chocolate, and the dark chocolate that the American freaks recommended on the site have led me back to being addicted. Now obviously they didn't come and shove it in my mouth, it's my own fault, and I'm an addiction counsellor. I know all about this, so it's my own fault. I take responsibility for that, but it's led me back. So the dark chocolate was a gateway drug to Milky Way. Now that sounds very funny, and you know, but if I suddenly start on Milky Way stars or something like that, it means that the dark chocolate has led me in. So in believing something like, oh, this dark chocolate's really good for the heart, it might well be, just as the alcohol promoters say, oh, a little bit of red wine's good for the heart. That's just from the alcohol lobby. It's complete bullshit. Don't forget that in the 1950s, when doctors weren't handing out Miltown to people, they were giving people cigarettes to patients. They were saying, here you are, try a bit of, try some Camels. Nothing satisfies like a Camel. Try some Marlboro. They'll calm you down. They're good for your nerves. So you can take all that lobby with a pinch of salt, really. They'll give anything as long as it's being promoted by Big Pharma. So basically, I've got re-addicted to chocolate by the gateway of dark chocolate, in believing that this is good for the health, when in actual fact it's probably just a crock of shit actually. So it won't be difficult for me to give up the odd Aero here and there, but the purpose of this video is a sort of warning to people in recovery of whether it's chocolate or whether it's alcohol or any addictive substance, if you're in recovery from something, don't try anything even close to it, because it might lead you back to something. So if you've had a problem in the past with wine and you suddenly start drinking Schlur, obviously it's not an alcoholic, that, but